Welcome to the Gita In Action podcast. My name's Radha, and I'm here with our family of seekers. It is a big day for us. It is our 2 year anniversary. Actually, technically, our 2 year anniversary was yesterday, but because of the way the days fall, we're celebrating it today. Our 2 year anniversary. That means we've been at it together studying the Bhagavad-gītā every Monday and Thursday for 2 years. And it's been really transformational. Definitely for me, and I hear from a lot of you the same. So it's been such an honor to walk this path with you. And Krishna's preparing us, preparing our hearts for service. And we're grateful. So, a couple things before we start. We have officially 11 days left to get the early bird special for pilgrimage. So, if you haven't yet put a deposit down for that, please do that. All you have to do is just put a deposit down and then you can pay off the rest just before the trip. So, to register, you don't have to, pay everything up front or anything like that. So that's on the website, consciouscollectivelife.org. You can check out our pilgrimage. Our whole itinerary is up there. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. Um, your life will be changed after this trip. That's all I can say. So if you're thinking about it, this is your little push to just do it. And there is 0% chance you will regret it. Even if it's a little bit of a stretch for you, I could guarantee that. I don't guarantee a lot of things. I'm not a person that just like talks, but I could guarantee that you will not regret it. Um, okay, so today, in honor of our special day, we're going to do a couple things. We're going to do one verse. We're going to talk about verse 22, chapter 13, verse 22. And then I was hoping we could do something a little bit special to kind of commemorate this day. And that is that maybe some of us that have, been studying together for a while or have been impacted greatly at this journey can share a little bit about how they've seen or experienced this change of heart as we've been studying the Gita together over the past couple years, how it's showed up in their lives. So that's my invitation to you. And if you're here live, we'll do the verse first, so you can have a little bit of time to to prepare. And we can share as much or as little. You can share just a couple minutes. If we have lots that want to share, then maybe we kind of tailor it like that. But okay, does that sound good? All right, let's get started. Shakti, can you say our prayers for us this morning?
Thank you so much. I'm honored. Thank you. Om Jnana Timirandasya Yananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Umilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavembhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadahara Srivas Ari Guru Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Thank you. Thank you, Shakti. All right, let's get right into the verse 13:22. Let me pull it up on my screen. And Shraddhanjali, when you're ready.
Purusaha prakritisto hi bhunkte prakriti jangunan karanam guna sangosya sada sadyoni janmasu. The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus, he meets with good and evil among various species.
All right. This is a really practical verse for us to dig into today. Last time we were together, we talked about the movie analogy. We compared material life to watching a movie. The movie is playing, and once I become invested in what's happening on the screen, I start experiencing all kinds of happiness and distress along with it. That's what we talked about. And the goal of life is not to figure out how to write our own script. I love the Kripa Maya made that point yesterday, and actually, or the last class, and actually, it stuck with me all week. Notice where I've been trying to control our own script, write our own script to the movie that's going on. But the goal is to realize is to get out of the movie entirely, to get out of the infatuation with what's happening on the screen entirely. That's the goal, to realize that it's just a movie. And so this verse is taking that one step further. This verse, so we're in a movie theater. Now we can imagine, instead of just watching the movie, that we're putting on like a virtual reality headset. And you become so absorbed in the game that's on the headset that for a moment you forget that you're even standing in your living room. And now you're not just watching the character, but you feel like you are the character. Something threatens your character and your heart starts racing. Something good happens and you're excited. Something goes wrong, you're upset. But the whole time, there's another reality about you that you've temporarily forgotten. And Krishna's telling us here in the Gita that something similar happens to us. Because the soul desires to experience and enjoy material nature. And then what happens is it becomes so absorbed in the particular body that it's in and the identity that it's been given, that we actually start thinking, like, this is me. Not I'm experiencing this body, but we start thinking I am this body. Not I'm playing this particular role right now, but this role is who I am. I was just watching, I don't know if you guys follow this Hayden Panettiere. I think that's how you say her last name. She passed away this weekend. Really sad. But there's lots of like different clips that are now coming up on my Instagram about her. And in one interview, she was a famous actress, by the way. She's been acting since she was like 1 year old. I think less than 1 year old. She's been acting her whole life. She died at 36. And in one of the interviews, she said something like, it was very confusing for her acting because she would have to like show a lot of emotion. She learned that she could like cry on cue from a very early age. And the way that she did it was really just thinking of really sad things. And when she was a kid, it was like her dog died. But then as she got older, it was like darker and darker things. And she'd get so much accolades. Like people would just be so like impressed, but meanwhile she's experiencing this really, really dark thing. And something that she said that I thought was really interesting is that over time it became difficult to like discern where her role ended and her real life started. Like it just started to like mesh together. And I thought this was so interesting. And we see actors and actresses have hard times. It's a tough industry. It looks very opulent, but the reality is so many of them suffer. But I thought this was a really interesting thing, that she gets so over involved in the roles. And that's what the Gita is telling us here. We're actually all doing that in our quote unquote real lives. Because we have this real life and it is real. Our interaction, this is real, but it's also temporary. And there's a part of us that is eternal, that is not material. And because we're so involved in all this temporary energy around us, we forget about that. We forget about who we actually are. And when we start to really connect with who we actually are and live from that place, this is where we actually experience the greatest fulfillment and connection that is available for us in this life and the next. But when we over-identify with our temporary roles and identities, we suffer. We experience happiness, we experience distress because these roles are temporary. And it's the nature of material energy. And as we've said so many times before, the soul is longing. The soul knows that it's eternal. It's longing for that which is eternal. And therefore it can't be satisfied when it's overly engrossed in material energy around us. It's not going to find its truest satisfaction there. The satisfaction it finds is by definition going to be temporary. But when it turns back to its creator, when it turns back to source, that's when it actually experiences that eternal bliss that's much deeper than just a temporary knock of happiness that we get in this world. And so that's the process here. But then what happens is something else happens on top of this. This is layered, this experience. We don't just experience material nature. We start developing preferences within it. So I think Ayurvedic says like increases like. We start developing preferences, like I like this, I don't like this, I want more of that. And then what happens is the more that we associate with certain experiences, the more attached we become to them. So there's this cycle. Desire leads to association. Association leads to attachment. Attachment leads to further association. So it's like you go into that movie, you see a horror movie, and maybe there's just like one scene in it that's a little bit graphic, and you're kind of attracted to it. So then the next movie that you see, you select one that has maybe a little bit more like that, until before you know it, like you're just on full blown like horror movies. You're seeking them out. Like this is how the material nature, the material energy works. We see this all around us. Some of us probably more than others. I know I have a super addictive personality. So I know like whatever I start and I'm like a little bit into, it's like give it some time and I'll be like full blown, like completely enthralled by it. And those of us that have that kind of intense personality sometimes have to be a little bit careful what movies we're introducing into our lives, because this happens to everybody. But if we choose the wrong movie, it can bring us to places we maybe don't want to go, don't want to be. I did this with working out. This is in the mode of passion. Got so into working out that I actually like messed up all of my hormones and had quite a hard time like with fertility in my older years. So these things, this is the way of material nature. We have to be careful. Actually, I know I've developed a little bit of like interest in this Hayden Panettiere thing this week, but she had a boyfriend who was very abusive, and he went to jail for abusing her, and she went to the hospital. It was a really bad situation. Anyway, after he got out of jail, like she started associating with him again. And people look at that and are like, this is so crazy. And I don't know if you've ever been in that. Like, I know I've been in a little bit of a situation, where somebody was pretty toxic. I won't go into the details of the abuse, but it was pretty bad. And I did that same thing, like took them back. And this is natural. It's easy to look and judge, but the reality is that we're programmed like this. We start to desire leads to association. Association leads to attachment. Attachment leads to further association. If you think this won't happen to you, you're wrong. Because it will. And not everybody will, choose a horror movie. So that's good. But this general pattern will happen and it will cause suffering, even if you're attached to things that are sattvic, that are in the mode of goodness, because those things will eventually go away. Those things will, by nature, be temporary. So we just, the Gita just teaches us how to live. It teaches us how to live. It teaches us the ultimate goal of living, and it shows us how to get there. And this is what's so beautiful about it. It's like a guidebook for life. And it teaches you also like, oh, okay, why is this happening to me? Why am I so attached to these things? Well, we're programmed like that. We're just confused. We're just misdirecting our desire and not directing our consciousness properly, not taking proper association, and therefore we become the cause of our own suffering. So this is the cycle. Eventually, we're thinking about these things all the time, and they become our life. Happens with our phones, our food, our shopping, attention from people, anything. The more we expose ourselves to something, the more we develop a taste for it, period. And so this is what Krishna is saying with association with the three modes. What we repeatedly associate with is shaping our consciousness, whether we know it or not. People are like obsessed with like making sure everything they put into their body is organic but it's like, what are we exposing our consciousness to? Because this is shaping who you are on more than just like a body of biological level. Like it's affecting your entire internal landscape. There's this interesting example from nature that can help us understand this. This is found in a lot of spiritual scriptures. This particular example is the silkworm. A silkworm produces this incredibly fine silk from its own body. And then little by little, it spins that thread around itself. One thread, then another, until eventually it's completely surrounded itself in a cocoon. And this is such an interesting image for material attachment, because nobody necessarily has to come along and tie us up. We create our own entanglement, one desire at a time. I need this. I need people to see me this way. I need this relationship to go the way I want it to. I need this amount of money to make me feel secure. It just goes on and on. And one little thread doesn't seem like much, but then there's another, and then there's another. And eventually we just become completely wrapped up in the very things that we thought were going to make us happy. So something that's just started as like, I can enjoy this, eventually can become like, I need this to be okay. And this is when enjoyment starts becoming attachment. And the difficult thing about it is that we're building our cocoon out of temporary things. People change, bodies change, circumstances change, possessions come and go. So the more that my happiness depends upon something temporary, the more fear that naturally comes along with it. Like, what if I lose it? What if this person leaves? What if things change? What if my plans don't work out? The same thing that gives me pleasure when I have it becomes a source of pain when I lose it. And so Krishna's not saying that we shouldn't love people or enjoy things necessarily. He's asking us to look at where we place our ultimate dependence. We place our ultimate dependence. Because if I'm asking something temporary to give me permanent security, eventually I'm going to be disappointed. And then Krishna takes us even further. He says that our association isn't just affecting our experience right now, but it's taking us somewhere. And we see that in our lives. Again, like attracts like. So we're building the template of our lives just by the choices that we make moment by moment, day by day. We're building the templates of our lives. But according to the Gita, the consciousness and desires that we cultivate ultimately influence the kind of body we receive next. So this just goes on and on. It's not like, our life has a beginning and an end. It's like our soul's journey is eternal, and this is affecting our consciousness eternally to the point where when we pass, when we leave our bodies, according to the kinds of desires that desires, what we deserve and what we desire is that dictates the kind of body that we get, determines the kind of body that we get. And different bodies allow for different kinds of experiences. Like if you're someone who was, very attached to eating, you get a body that's very conducive to eating a lot. This is Gita philosophy. And it can be a little bit like hard to conceptualize if this is the first time you're kind of hearing of these things. But if you think about what we've observed in our life so far, it definitely works like that. The choices that we make determine, create our life template. So it just continues even after this body is gone because our soul's journey is eternal. So it determines different types of bodies we have. A bird has one type of experience, a dog has another, a human being has another. Human beings are the only species, by the way, with the capacity for higher realization. So if you mute that quest in your human body, if you're not interested at all in self-realization, you may get a body that doesn't have that capability, because why would you need it if you're not interested in it? If you're interested in just eating and mating and defending, then maybe you just get an animal body because that fits all of your desires perfectly. So the body provides the equipment for a particular kind of experience. So if the soul cultivates particular desires, then again, material nature provides the opportunity to experience those desires, which means our desires aren't just harmless thoughts floating around in our minds. They're shaping our consciousness. They're actually taking us somewhere. And again, this isn't any different than the way that life works in this life, in this body. We see this. People say this all the time. There's so many slogans. Where your consciousness goes, energy flows. It's like it's shaping us. And there's one more analogy here that I'll share before we end for the day. One more analogy. This is a seed in water. Okay, this one makes it really practical. Let's see. Think about enjoying the enjoy mentality like a seed. The seed is there, but if we want a seed to grow, we have to water it. So our association is like the water. Whatever we repeatedly give our attention to, that's what we're watering. So if I continually associate with things that increase my envy, increase my greed, my need for validation, my need for control, I'm watering those seeds, and naturally they're going to grow. But if I repeatedly expose myself to things like spiritual sound, spiritual wisdom, chanting, service, people who remind me of who I actually am, then I'm watering something different. And gradually a different desire starts to grow. And this is the important thing for all of us to recognize and realize here, that this process is gradual. We say gradual because it's gradual. Sometimes we'll start practicing, and we've talked about this. I think Aaron has brought this up many times, which is sweet, that we start practicing and we start kind of noticing the gunk in our lives. We start noticing where I'm really attached, why do I really care so much what people think? Or why do I have this need to control everything? Like it starts to we could become very confronted. And the truth is, those are the things we've been watering for lifetimes. And until we're exposed to maybe a different way of being, those things are just normal. We don't even think twice about them. We don't feel like it's a problem that we feel that we need to control everything, unless we've been confronted in a big way. But a lot of us just like coast by and in like survival default mode. And some of these like weeds, so to speak, we don't really even notice that they're weeds. Because we don't even have an appreciation for the real flowers that are possible. So we just think, oh, okay, well, that weed, it's producing a couple tiny little flowers off of it. Maybe that's just normal. But once we see a garden full of beautiful flowers, then we know, oh gosh, mine is full of weeds. And that's okay. That's what we've been watering for lifetimes. We can't expect them to disappear overnight. And spiritual life isn't about waking up tomorrow and suddenly having no material desires, but it's gradually changing our taste, gradually changing our taste. And as our association changes, what we want starts changing. Things that once maybe seemed incredibly important might not quite have that same hold on us anymore. Like we got a new car a couple of years ago. It's a really nice car. It's a like Toyota Highlander. Nice car. Um, but I feel like it would be very easy for me to trade that car in for a 10-year-old piece of crap car if it meant I could continue dedicating my life and time to service. I don't feel like I need to go and get a job where I make a good amount of money so that I can support. It's just like I don't have so much of a taste for that anymore. Because I've been watering some flower. I still have quite a lot of weeds, but I've been growing some flowers as well, and I experienced, how fragrant and beautiful they are. And so it's like I don't have so much the taste for some of the weeds. I still have quite a bit of taste for others, but so this will happen to us over time. Start making choices as we develop a higher taste. And the things that we valued that we may not have valued before, or even had a taste for, hearing, chanting, service, spiritual relationships, they start becoming things that actually nourish us. So we're not just trying to go cold turkey and stop desiring material things. It's bad. Like that's not really getting at the point. The point is just to start watering the flowers and witnessing their growth and letting that process in itself pull you more towards that. And naturally the weeds will start to thin out. Just learning to want differently. And it will happen over time, guaranteed. Because like increases like. So we just start little by little. And that's the practical takeaway from this verse. It's not how do I get rid of my material desires? Because that could be very superficial. And then we can even get prideful about that. It's more like, what am I watering? What am I repeatedly watching? What am I repeatedly listening to? What am I putting in my ears? Oh, that is so important. Everybody's obsessed with what they're putting in their mouths. What are you putting in your ears? You just listening to nonsense gossip about people all the time? Or are you listening to transcendental music, transcendental scriptures? Who am I spending time with? What thoughts am I constantly rehearsing? What's my inner narrative? What kind of happiness am I constantly chasing? These are the things to become aware of. Because Krishna's showing us these little choices, they're not insignificant. What we associate with shapes what we're attached to. What we're attached to shapes what we desire, and what we desire shapes the direction that we're going. So this is, for us to notice it right now in this life, like, what am I watering? What am I watering? Am I watering the desires that keep me absorbed in the character and building the cocoon? Or am I watering the things that gradually help me remember who I actually am? And this is the verse that I wanted to share with you all today. And it's a nice fitting verse for our theme of today, is this transformational journey that we've been on together. We've all made a commitment. Many of us here have been coming, pretty regularly. Even if it's been for a short time, we hear this and we like it. We think, I want more of this. I want more of this transcendental literature. I want more of this association. And we see in our own lives over time we start to become more attached to that and somehow less attached to other things that we used to maybe depend on for security or enjoyment or happiness. Or maybe some of those weeds start kind of getting uprooted naturally. This is the process. So I want to open up our discussion to, we can discuss anything that we talked about today. And also I wanted to do something a little bit special today in sharing maybe some of those, how this has showed up in our own lives. As we've been taking this journey together, we've been watering this seed, this spiritual seed. How the practical results that we've seen from it, and just to start this discussion off, I'll share first, and then hopefully we can hear from some of our live crew as well. But I was thinking about this morning. I struggle a lot with like people pleasing, and I'll often like lose my own way, or like when I was younger, like never even got to know myself in the interest of like doing what I thought other people wanted me to, or what I was expected to do. And I found that as I've been studying this with you all, associating, um, just being in this sangha, that I've become more attached to Krishna, and it's been more clear to me when I'm shifting over into that mode and like deviating from the mission and like even losing touch with my own self, honoring my own talents and authentic contributions in the name of like trying to get approval from others. So this has become there's been a little bit of more space in this for me. I've been able to see a little bit more like, oh, that's really fueled by that. And in the moment, kind of like step back a little bit and kind of take the time to give things some space and really try to connect with Krishna and see the way that he wants things to go, as opposed to just like trying to appease the first person in the first conversation I have or something. There's my baby. So that's been really powerful for me. I feel like it's really allowed me to step into bigger roles of service, with a higher level of dependency. And yeah, so that's really been transformational. But I would love to hear from some of you on
I'll
how,
start.
yeah, please.
What it's funny because you said you were a people pleaser, and I was the opposite as a kid. I was really attached to rebellion. We if it was something I knew was good for me, or like would help me have an easier path through life to actually please somebody or try to take them into account. And I could see how I that was like it's just the other side of the coin, you know,
Yeah.
of that. It's funny because sometimes that led me astray to lose myself because what I wasn't, I just immediately went to, well, no. When I wasn't pausing to think, well, what do I actually really want? Like maybe it's not to rebel at that moment. Maybe it's, you know, I'd rather go along. But yeah, it's very transformational Gita wisdom. That sacred pause so that you can realize like, whoa, what's the mode here? Or is this drawing me away or turning me toward? Um, and that's what I think, this class has helped me develop that sacred pause and think, well, wait, I've learned something about this in the Gita. Either I remember it or I look for it, or the very next time we meet, it's addressed, which that happens a lot. I think. So thank you. Yeah, this podcast has really brought even a longtime reader of the Gita like me to appreciate it more and to actually develop skills from it. So thank you.
Mm, yeah. Wow. Beautiful. The sacred pause. Whew, so powerful. Thank you. Sukdai. We don't get to hear from you very much, so this is a treat.
Yeah, I like to listen to everyone. But it has been 2 years, like you said, and from the beginning I was here when Veda and you started, and I don't think I have missed not more than maybe 3 or 4 live podcasts. And maybe that's because I was in transit somewhere traveling or whatever. But I first of all would like to express my gratitude to you and to everyone else in this class. It has been transformational for me as well. I have made so much changes in my life that I don't even know that I'm making these changes. It just happened naturally. And things are just coming out just so naturally. I really do appreciate everyone. I mean, I love to see Shakti and her husband. I love to see Stella and everyone else when they're here. Like, I feel so privileged to be in this company. And I there's so many things that has changed in me that I don't even realize. Like a year ago, I was in a company that I knew these people for a long time. They're from different parts, like Washington and New York and stuff. And we met together in New Jersey. And there was a conversation that was going on in the round table that I really was not in sync with. And like, oh gosh, I just automatically get up and walk away. And I
Mm.
walk out realizing that I never knew this about them, even though I know them for a long time. However, I don't have no kind of hatred for them. I appreciate that's
Mm.
your opinion. My opinion is different. So I can
Mm.
do those things. I can walk away. I stop reacting to even my siblings, even when they're not listening and you're trying to tell them things. I stop. I walk away. I would come up with answers that are I would listen more and sit and with clarity come up with a better or an answer, and I would remain calm. That's the part. I would remain calm. And sometimes I wish that I mean I'm retired now, but I wish I had all of this knowledge that I am learning every day from since the beginning. I started the Bhagavad-gītā with. I've seen the Bhagavad-gītā in a whole different new sense. I have watched so many times the Mahabharata. I have read the Gita, not in full, but different parts. And I have listened to many priests as well, over time speak on different parts of the Bhagavad-gītā. And I have never seen it the way it is presented in this group, the reality of it, the the way it applies to our daily practical life. And like I said, I wish I had this knowledge when I was practicing. I would have put everything together and look at my and look at the baby in the utero in a whole different way. Like, it's like
Mm.
I always I in my latter year I try to practice more holistic way. And like a patient comes in and if they're like, oh my gosh, I have this headache, I straight away go straight with my hands to do pressure point stuff and all of that. Sometimes I would take up so much time, not realizing I have so much other patients waiting and all of that. So it's
Mm.
like I am saying I also learned to speak up. I was like that people take advantage because I do so much. Every time you ask to do something, I always do it.
Mm.
And it takes a toll on you and I have learned to speak up in a nicer way. I'm calmer. I am like I said, not reacting anymore. And I always look like you, like I had said, you came from a scientific background. I always like to look at the pathophysiology of things, and now to put the spirituality into that together with it, it would have been so enhancing for me. But
Mm.
there's no regrets. I love what I did. And I am just loving this class. It's very compelling. It doesn't matter where I am. I could be driving my grandkids to daycare or school and I have it on. They'll be talking to me and I'm singing to them and I'm still listening. So it is, I don't know, it's life changing for me. And I am already thinking that when you're done, what am I going to do? It's like, I just feel like Mondays and Thursdays I have to, and on Saturdays I'm with Veda G. So it's so nice. I felt really privileged and I'm very, very grateful to every single one of you here. So thank you so much, Radha G.
Mm. Thank you, Suktai. So nice to hear from you. Such a sincere soul. Thank you. Nancy.
Hare Krishna, everyone. And first, I'll offer my obeisances to you, Radha, that this podcast would not mean what it does to so many of us without your beautiful guidance and the work that you put into really curating each and every verse. I'm relatively new. Not new to the Gita. I've studied the Gita for quite some time and different things, but new to this podcast. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's been 4 or 5 months. I'm not sure, but I've gotten hooked. But I kept on, some things that came to mind when we were speaking was the mental struggle that I had had all my years by other people's scripts
Mm.
and how they were always trying to pull me into um, different roles and insisting that I was part of their script in a way that perhaps wasn't such a good thing when thinking about business. This is how I'm supposed to be. I was, you have to do this job, you have to do that. And I was, awfully uncomfortable, especially in my working life. Until I formed my own company. And then I was my own boss. And then I was able to say, I have a direction, a dharma with this work that's I'm comfortable with. But still, even, as a mother, my desires have changed in each phase of my life. Um, there was a point in time when I was hooked on these somewhat gruesome, dark Danish and Swedish mysteries, reading them. And I was like, what was going on with me at that point in time? But and the way that you explain each of the verses and the time that you take with each verse has been very important to me because I've taken a lot of classes where perhaps this is a class on the chapter and you have maybe an hour and a half on a chapter, but not the depth of the verses. And the way that you have sort of executing this study is just really beautiful to me. But what it has done for me, has been to really, I think, soften my heart
Mm.
to the extent that if people don't think the way I think or don't believe as I do, it's okay. I'm
Mm.
starting to have an idea of my true north, where I want to be. And if you're not a part of that or don't want me to be part of that, it's okay. I don't have to trash you or put you down. What comes to mind is an example just happened recently. We had friends who asked us to go to the movies, and while I wanted to go see the Odyssey, I knew I wasn't going to get anybody to sit with me through this, but um, instead they wanted to go see Spider-Man. And I haven't been, this is not my thing. And I was watching this, and all of a sudden I found myself sort of just drifting off, closing my eyes, hearing this swish, 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 swish in the background where there's spider webs going all different directions. And I'm just like, it's okay. It's okay. I can just close my eyes and just be and know that I'm doing sort of service to these friends who really find that this is most interesting. So when the movie was over, they said, "Well, what did you think? What did you think?" And I said, "Oh, it was good. Thank you for bringing me." As opposed to, "Are you kidding me?" You know, and I think that that's the softness that comes with being kind in all things. You know, for me, realizing that everybody is a devotee, whether they realize it or not, and they're on, you know, and if I can be an example of the Bhagavad-gītā to them, you know, a walking example of being generous and kind through everything that I do in my actions and my words. Um, that's the lesson that this podcast delivers to me. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. And that's so important to develop this broad-mindedness. If we really want to be lights for the world, we have to be accepting and loving to the world. It's not just about us and our practice. And that's we're again not really getting it. So we have to be able to meet people where we're at. And as we study, the Gita meets people where they're at. If you can't do this, do this. If you can't do this, do this. You know, Krishna doesn't say, if you're not at the highest level, then you're done. You're not worth my time. You know, he doesn't say that. So yeah, thank you. I relate a lot to that as well. Thank you for sharing. Kay, would you like to share anything with us?
Sure. I thought Martine wanted to say something.
I think she's driving. I think she commented that she's driving, so she can't
Oh,
speak right now. Yeah.
okay. I think, we last week we were riding in the van 12, 13 hours. And I used to be like that in the past, where people pleaser, just talking, laughing, carrying a conversation just to please others, the other family members and all. But this time I was so calm, and I had my headphones and I was listening to Bhagavad-gītā and to the lectures, and I was listening to Nancy's lecture that I had missed on Monday, not lecture, her story, and then Stella's story, and all these stories, they are so uplifting. And you guys have opened your heart to us, telling us so many details about your lives, and that is so warming, that is so connecting. Even if we don't meet, it's like, wow, you guys have been through so much, and nice to know all that. And learning tolerance, learning that Krishna is the planner and we just have to connect with him. That is what the main thing we have learned through this class. So that and all these small, small things are changing the way we think, changing the way we are behaving, and that is helping. I came late to the class because I was enjoying Amarendra Prabhu's one of the songs that he's preparing the audience for Janmashtami. And it was so nice. And so because of this class, I got into so many other spiritual things that it's like a Chappan Bhog. Chappan Bhog is so many things I'm getting on the plate, and I'm enjoying, I'm relishing. So thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you, Kay. Love Kay. She's such a little ball of energy. Thank you, Kay. Katie G, would you like to share with us?
Yes, Hare Krishna. I just had a sweet memory of when we were meeting in person and Kay in her Krishna costume. And yeah, just how we can all really embrace this together. And it's so joyful to hear how everybody shares sort of kind of relate and kind of touch on each other. And I think it's inspiring to others who may want to join us, and for all of us to, of course, keep going. I mean, which is clear. Because yeah, there's such powerful changes and help with it. And I feel very grateful because before this, I had read the Gita, but not like the full Prabhupada version, like not all the purport, you know what I mean? Like more of the verses, not all the purports. And I had done a couple of like short course like highlights courses, which were great. But yeah, I totally agree that it really is impactful to go so slowly and, distinctly through each verse. Yeah, and how like important that is really, to kind of feel like you've really read it, or I mean, that might sound funny, but you know what I mean. Yeah, and I feel like it has a really good title because Gita in Action is is really what I see more and more over time. Um, where we can really have this experience of what what what's said in there. It's like it like reveals itself and opens up and keeps building, and then we can look back over time and say like Kay just said, Krishna is our planner, and really have this experience that we can leave things more up to him. We can relax more. We can just our faith can be so strengthened because of our lived experience. I think is what I'm trying to say. And as usual, I'm driving, so I'm sorry, I'm a little two minds at once. But yeah, I just kind of feel like I don't know what I would do without you guys and without it. And I really appreciate it. Yeah. So it really fills my heart. And I think the association is so powerful and our friendships are really special. So yeah, thank you all so much. Hi, Ball.
Hi, Paul. Thank you, Katie.
I'll share a little.
Please, please. I was hoping you would.
Yeah, just to start, thank you so much for this class. It's in the beginning there was so many misconceptions for me that were just being shattered, and I was just like gaining so much clarity, really being able to go through the Gita verse by verse, just giving me so much clarity on events in my life and misconceptions that I've developed from growing up in the movement, but never really having a teacher or a study. And so I really remember that from the beginning. And then now I think overall, looking at the past 2 years and how many changes I've gone through. I mean, I've changed my job, I've increased, my chanting, and I've really sincerely prayed to like have more association, to be able to do more service, and just really seeing how much Krishna has reciprocated. I mean, I work now at New Vrindavan, and I'm around devotees like much more often, and really just through all the changes, my prayer just kept being like, Krishna, I'm just trying to surrender, and I know that you have I know, like, I think that's my biggest prayer now is like, Krishna is my best friend. He knows what I need, and he is providing it. Like, really believing he's providing what I need for my highest good, and to just really take shelter of that through all the different changes that come, through all the things that come. I mean, it's still a practice. It's not like this is like something completely self-realized at all, but it's like to go back and to remember that and to practice that. And having this class helps me go back to remember that. And then like looking back at where I was to where I am today, and I'm just like, wow, I'm surrounded by devotees now. Like, that's amazing, And I get to just like think of Krishna more and more, and um, yeah, I'm really just developing gratitude, more and more gratitude for that, and now my prayer is like, don't let me become complacent. Keep it fresh, keep it new, keep me yearning to take it higher, take it deeper. And yeah, I think my biggest change is just trusting that Krishna will provide. Krishna has a plan. I don't have to overthink and over worry and stress. I still do, but leaning back to that prayer and taking shelter of chanting and hearing, um, really helps minimize how long I overthink and overstress. So yeah, that's probably my biggest change. So thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Mariah. Beautiful share. And Anita, we'd love to hear.
Hi, good morning again.
Thank
I'll be quick. So, my journey also started with Veda G more than 2 years ago. And like I've said a little bit in the past, that my journey is a bit different because I was brought up with the entire Hindu philosophy, not just Krishna, but all the other deities. And that was my path and is my path. Um, Growing up, my life has kind of been straightforward, where I was always a good person, from my perspective, of course. Didn't do harm to others, always about goodness, didn't indulge in a lot of stuff. I was brought up very protective because I'm the last child of 9, and my brothers were really protected of me. In fact, yesterday I was talking to one of my cousins back in Guyana, and he mentioned that, oh, your brother was really strict with you. And I said, yes, maybe over strict. And he was like, oh, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing. So I was really brought up very reserved. And most of my life, 40 years of my life, was pretty much like that. Even when I came to America, it was still the same until I came to Georgia at the age of probably 40. And then I had so many different experiences being part of a mandir, trying to form a mandir and to run a mandir as an executive. And it was so many different kinds of experiences that came along my way. But personally speaking, is that in the class, when I'm listening to the Gita, and I've never read the Gita, I am looking at myself and I'm seeing that, oh, I have some of this in me. I've been doing this and without being put in words. And I'm understanding so much stuff about myself. And I've always had Krishna in my heart, and I've always gone to him for answers and for guidance. And I continue to do that. But I've changed with the class because I don't react as easily as I used to. Like, I was always there ready to correct people or to try to prove that I'm right. And these days, I don't do that. I don't do that. I'm much calmer. Not that I had changed a lot. I just, sometimes you have to stand up for what is right. You don't let people just walk all over you, because that's the only way, it will work. And I still do that. And the people here in my community, they know that that's what I stand for. And I don't have to prove myself anymore regarding that. But as an individual, and I look at all of you here in the class and I say how blessed you are, because you're on this path where you're totally focused on Krishna and getting to him, which I am not. And it's my own, I'll get there. I always refer to you, all of you. Sometimes I take whatever something I learn, and if I can share it with the others at Mandir, I do share it. I do share it. And I do let them know that we're worshiping the same Krishna, but look at the path that they are on and look at the path on which we are on. It is so totally different. You know, your path, this path here is so much easier than ours. And so I'm grateful to you and to everyone for sharing and opening your hearts like it's been said. And so I want to say thank you to all of you for that. And yeah, we'll continue. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Anita.
Mm-hmm.
I can connect with all of your shares. It's really so beautiful. We have transformed together. And I really see that in everybody's shares. And it takes this community. You know, this wouldn't be happening without all of you and your open hearts and your desire to learn and to grow and to connect. And it's because of that this service has continued. You know, otherwise it would have ended after a couple months, or maybe, you know, after a few weeks when we lost Veda at the beginning there. That was a little shaky, but actually the advice he gave me when he was like, I can't do it anymore. He's like, lean into the community, you know, bring the community into it. And that has been such a blessing, for this to be a community podcast. So thank you all, because you guys have made it what it is. And we have become a family because of it. So happy 2-year anniversary. And let's keep going. And, you know, I don't know what's going to happen at the end of this either when we finish the Gita, but Krishna has a plan. And I trust in Krishna's plan. So let's keep going together and trust together. So thank you all. Thank you for coming and for sharing. And yeah, we'll see you on Monday.
Thank you. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Bol.
Thank you.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Bol.